In the previous lesson, we learned in depth how to build the chords in the various minor scales. So we learn how to build the chords in a minor key, and we said that of course we can use three different minor scales, and so we understand how to build them on the various minor scales. And we saw something very important, something quite essential, which is that depending on the scale, on the minor scale that I am using, I can have different chords on the same degree. So for example, if I take the A minor key and if I take the second degree, depending if for example if I'm using the natural minor scale, so the A natural minor scale, to build a chord on the second degree, I will have a diminished chord, while in the case of an ascending melodic minor scale, of course I will have the augmented sixth degree, and so I will have a minor chord. So depending on the scale I'm using, I will have different chords built on the same degree. And this is, as I said before, quite essential. But tomorrow we are going more into depth, because we need to understand how to use the different chords, since we have a larger array of musical possibilities using the minor key, because we can we have a higher number of tools, of course. So we need to know now how to use them. We must be aware of every tools we have, and so we need to know more in depth how to use them, because this is the essential thing, to master all the tools that we have, so that we can obtain the most effective musical results. So let's start with the first topic, which is about the dominant chord. Now, to talk about the dominant chord, or maybe it is better if we say before only the chord built on the fifth degree, we need to make to compare the two different scale. So we have to compare the two. So to make a distinction between the major and the natural minor scale. So between one another. So to make this to compare this, we need now to take for first as a first example the major scale. And in this case, of course, as usually, we are going to use the C minor scale. So on the fifth degree, by superposing intervals of a third, as usually, I can build this chord G B D, which of course is the G major chord, and it is called a dominant chord. Please note that this is the fifth degree, and of course it is called a dominant. This degree is called a dominant. So this is called a dominant chord. So, and this is something very important. In every major key, on the fifth degree, we will always have a dominant chord. While, of course, on the first degree, we will always have a tonic chord. Please remember, let me remind you, of course, that this is the first degree, and it is called a tonic. Okay, so let's compare this case with the natural minor scale. The natural minor scale, which is made up of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So the fifth degree, we're going to compare the fifth degree of the chord built on the fifth degree of the major scale with the chord built on the fifth degree of the natural minor scale. The fifth degree is this, which in this case is an E note. So by superposing intervals of a third, we will have this chord which is made up of E, G, and B. Okay, we have already analyzed this chord, and we already took a look at this, and we said that it is called, of course, it is a minor chord. This is an E minor chord because on the fifth degree of the A of every natural minor scale, we always have a minor chord. So now let's compare the two chords. I mean, the one built on the fifth degree of the major scale and the one built on the fifth degree of the natural minor scale. So let's start with the fifth of the C major scale in this case. This chord, we said before that it is called a dominant chord, and as every dominant chord, it has two main features. So let's take a look at these two features. The first feature is that it is every dominant chord is a major chord, since this chord is called a G major chord. And this is the first feature. The second one, about the dominant chord, so the chord built on the fifth degree of every major scale, the second feature is that the seventh note of this chord, so this note, is the leading tone of the corresponding major scale on which we have built the chord on. So these are the two main features. The first is that it is a major chord. The second is that it contains, we could say, it has inside of it the leading tone. So let's compare this chord with the one built on the fifth degree of the natural minor scale, and let's compare the two features. So we said that the first feature of every dominant chord is to be a major chord. So we have to ask ourselves: is this even also a major chord? Of course, no, it is not a major chord, because before we said that it is a minor chord, as every chord built on the fifth degree of the natural minor scale. So this is the first difference, the first great difference between these two chords. The second one, so the second feature about the fact that the second note is correspond, we could say, to the leading tone. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the second note of this chord. This second note of this chord is not the leading tone of the A minor key, because we said, of course, it is not the leading tone of the A of the natural minor scale, because we already said that the natural minor scale doesn't have the leading tone. In fact, we have to remember that the main feature of a leading tone is to be far by one half tone from to be far one half tone from the tonic note. In this case, this note, so the seventh degree, is far one whole tone. And as you surely remember, because we said it several times right now, we needed to introduce the harmonic minor scale, so with its augmented seventh degree, to have, in the context of the minor key, to have the leading tone. So sorry for this too many words, but it was very important to remember to remind you these aspects, so that they are very clear for you. So, since this is not a major chord, and second thing, the second note of this chord is not the leading tone, while of course because in the natural minor scale we don't have the leading tone, we cannot call this chord a dominant chord because he doesn't have the two main features of every dominant chord, so to be a major chord and to have inside the leading tone. So in this case, if we use the natural minor scale on the fifth degree, we only have a chord that we can only call this chord a fifth degree chord, so a chord built on the fifth degree. But it is important to notice that it is not possible to call it a dominant chord, since he doesn't have the two main features of every dominant chord. Well, so now let's take a look at the harmonic minor scale, in which of course we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp and A. So let's try to build the chord on the fifth degree of the harmonic minor scale. So, but as usually by superposing intervals of a third. So E, E, G sharp, because in the harmonic minor scale we have the G sharp, so the augmented seventh degree, and the E note. So let's compare this chord with the one built on the fifth degree of the major scale. So let's compare the two features. First feature, is this a major chord? Yes, of course it is, because we said that on the fifth degree of the harmonic minor scale, of every harmonic minor scale, we always have a major chord. In fact, this is called a E major chord. Well, second feature, let's take a look at the second note. This second note corresponds to the leading tone, of course, of the A minor key, or of the A harmonic minor scale, because we said that this is the leading tone of our minor key, or of our minor scale, harmonic minor scale, since it is far 1/2 tone from the tonic. So inside this chord we find of course the leading tone. So since it has the two features correspond to the one of the dominant chord, they correspond to the features, to the two main features of the dominant chord, we can call this chord a dominant chord. So the chord built on the fifth degree of any harmonic minor scale, of each harmonic minor scale, is called a dominant chord, and this is very important. So let's take a look at this. A minor scale, A minor key. In every minor scale we always have the fifth degree, and this degree, only the degree, please notice that, please notice this fact, only the fifth degree is called a dominant note, but we will have the dominant chord only if we use the harmonic minor scale, while if we use the natural minor scale, even if we start from the dominant note, this is not, we cannot call it a dominant chord. So depending on which scale we are using, we can build different chords on the same degree. But we have already seen this, because as I said before, on the second degree, depending if I use the natural minor scale of the ascending melodic minor scale, I can have the diminished and the minor chord. So depending on which kind of atmosphere, on how it sounds, I can choose one or another chords. So up to now we have only spoken about the and something aesthetical, some aesthetical point of view. So it is an aesthetical point of view to say, to choose this chord or this chord, since I prefer how it sounds, it sounds better than this one, or vice versa. But the chords built on the fifth degree are something different, because on the other different chord, or on the other different degrees, as I said before, I only have to choose depending on which kind of atmosphere, depending on the aesthetical point of view. But the fifth degree is one of the most important degrees that I have in my key. It is one of maybe the second most important after the tonic note, because it gives the tonic the very strong sense of tendency to move to the tonic. So as a consequence of having or not to having, or sorry, as a consequence of yes, or having or not having a dominant chord, or maybe as a consequence of the importance of this note, so of the tonic note, it is very important to understand if we have or not a dominant chord, since this note, this degree on which we build either a dominant chord or a not dominant chord, so only a fifth degree dominant, it is very important to understand if we have this. So while in the case of all the other degrees, it is only a question of it is only an aesthetical point of view. It depends if it sounds good or it sounds bad for our composition, for our musical sensibility. On the fifth degree, this is not only a question of how it sounds. It is much more than this. It is something, we could say that it is about the structure, the system of relationship that we have inside of our key. So in the next video we are going to see why it is so important to choose one chord, so for example the dominant chord instead of the one that you can call, of course, the not dominant, intending of course the chord build, the minor chord build of the fifth degree of the natural minor scale. So see you in the next video.